A warm good evening to all of you. Myself, Jisha. I welcome all of you on behalf of the principal and faculty of Srinarayana College, Kollam, to the fifth edition of AGORA 20.
Fine. Now, what is it all about? The soft skill. I'm sure many of you are aware of this concept called soft skill, which you can differentiate from hard skill, soft and hard, isn't it? Hard skill is basically your domain specific knowledge. For example, in my case, I work on taxonomy of seaweeds. So that is my hard skill, right? Taxonomy or plant taxonomy in general. So hard skill is basically what make you to get your job and get the pay, right? So that is basically what you study, what you got your PhD in. That is your hard skill if you had your PhD, right? But then that's also known as core competency, the domain specific skill or hard skill. But that is only a half of the picture. You see, half of the picture on what determines a life success. So are you actually turning into a successful career or not, right? So only the marks only play a minor role in that transition to a successful life, you know. So there is a very famous saying that more than marks that you get in your college exam, it is that hands that you shake that matters for landing in good job. It's a pattern everywhere in the world, you know, be it in Europe or the US or Australia or here in India, right? Social connection and communication all play a huge role, you know. So you might know about IQ, right? Intelligence quotient. And EQ is about emotional quotient. So both play intertwiningly to determine the life success. So hard skill and soft skill. So soft skill is something to do with your emotion, and it is not explicit. It is mostly implicit. You see, and because it is implicit, it is hard to quantify, you know. So if it is explicit, I can make a standardized test like a UGC net or IIT or something like GRE, for example, for the US, right? So those tests can only measure your core competence, your hard skill, not the soft skill. So that is why schools usually avoided this subject for a long time. You know, though this soft skill is extremely important determinant on pupils' success, you know, success rate or propensity to become a successful person later in their life. You know, and yeah, so these skills are completely missed out in school curricula, right? And that is the reason why the union government, while refining the school as well as the higher education curricula in the country in 2020, a key document has came up. I'm sure many of you have read this document. If not, please check out this document called NEP 2020, right? That is called National Education Policy 2020. Many people uh, call it as new education policy. No, it is called national, right? National Education Policy 2020. So if you read that document, I have read it completely many times. So you will see that one theme that is repeated often in the NEP 2020 is about the peril of coaching culture. You know, our children of India is has become so much like a robot, you know. So they're not enjoying the freedom of life. You know, the school kids are forced for coaching centers for tuition and as well as for the IIT JEE and NEET preparation, you see, and that caused such a tremendous stress into their life. You might have heard about Kota here in Rajasthan. I'm speaking to you here from Punjab, a place called Bathinda, which is pretty near to Rajasthan, you see. And Rajasthan has this Kota, very famous place for this coaching centers. And in Kota, every year, so many students commit suicide, all because of the psychological turmoil associated with coaching culture. And you're training these kids just to score marks in high stakes exams like IIT, NEET, and also NET JRF, right? And GRE or TOEFL or whatever be, right? So just qualifying it means a successful career. So that is actually you know, the problem with our education system. We really need to change that system, you know. And because of that, the creativity is at stake. The students which comes out of such a educational system are not really creative. So the productivity and creativity are different. You see, productivity is that how much paper that you publish, how many total impact factor you make. All these are productivity, you can say, right? But creativity is like, it doesn't matter how many paper that you publish, but even one paper, if it is really creative, if it can fetch a Nobel Prize, you see. So creative geniuses might not be a high IQ level, but creativity is something entirely different. That is a part of soft skill, you see. So NEP 2020, if you read it, it suggests to introduce soft skill as part of the school as well as higher education curricula. You see, what they said is a holistic, a new course called life skills, right? Which include critical thinking as well as soft skills. So these two things are kind of contradictory. Critical thinking deals with reason, logic and reason and science and philosophy. All those are part of the critical thinking, thinking critically. Be always doubtful. Cartesian doubt is part of critical thinking. And on the other side, soft skill is something to do with emotions, controlling your emotions or managing your emotions. So, of course, a management of emotion is better than controlling it, you know. So, yes, so the emotion is basically much older. If you look our own evolutionary legacy as a species, Homo sapiens, many of the organs in our brain, the conserved organs, for example, amygdala, a very small, so lizard's brain, that is the size of this amygdala. It's extremely small organ right in the center of your brain, is what is responsible for much of your emotion, you know, uh, r- to fight or to flight response. All these are controlled by this amygdala, the small organ. On the other side, critical thinking and reason, rationality, all these are by the frontal cortex. You see the brain. So that is why these two things are really contradictory. So you need a mix of both of this for determining success in all of our life. EQ as well as IQ. It's both. You see, and you might know about IQ. You see, IQ is mostly genetically inherited. We have so many papers nowadays available that the genetics play a huge role in IQ, but not in EQ. EQ is mostly determined by the environment, where the kids grow up, and the kind of childhood that we all have. You know, uh, Nurture rather. IQ is mostly nature. So nature versus nurture argument, you see. So yes, it's really important to know and to teach our pupil about the soft skills. So what is this video is all about, to introduce you about little bit of the concepts of the soft skills. So, one of the very important uh, memories in my life had been probably, the biggest success I would say that I ever had in my life is getting invited by the President of India to spend a week with him inside Rashtrapati Bhavan as a guest of President. That's a really a golden opportunity I had in my life. So when I went over there, I mean, I've extensively wrote about my experience. I took a train, sleeper class, and when I reached in Delhi, the two black cats were there to receive me, and they took me to Rashtrapati Bhavan from New Delhi station in a bulletproof Land Cruiser. First time ever I traveled like that. So inside Rashtrapati Bhavan, we had several meetings with President of India, as well as with the Sushma Suraj, that time the education minister, and even Prime Minister Modi, Narendra Modi. We had a meeting with him. So something which really caught my attention is the way when awardees of this inspired teacher, when I spoke, for instance, President Pranab Mukherjee was taking notes on his notebook. So, we are just mortal, but he's listening to what we are saying. That is something profound. I really, and that is something like a once in lifetime opportunity, right? But still, then, the words that I utter, he's taking note of it. There is a concept in psychology called Ebbinghaus forgetfulness curve. So, you are taking this course, you are attending this program rather, and after an hour of completing this, talk, you will be forgetting approximately 90 percentage of what I speak to you. 90 percentage. So how will you recover from that? How will you beat this forgetfulness? The only option is taking notes and reviewing it. That is extremely important, to take notes of the concept that you don't understand it. So in school, none of this life skill is being taught. So that is the reason why I released this book called Life Skills. I'm just sharing you the link later after this talk. You can order through my website or through Amazon. If you order through my website, you can get some discount of this book. So what exactly is this life skill or the soft skills that we are going to discuss about, especially on productivity and managing our time, and managing the emotion, extremely important, right? Emotional management. And many things are completely missed out in school education. For instance, insurance, you know or personal finance, right? How to become successful in financial matters, how the consent works, sexual consent, what kind of look is appropriate, what kind of touch is appropriate, happiness, the science of happiness, you know, cooking skills, making friends, and managing the time, which I told you, first aid and CPR. All these are extremely important life skills, are completely missed out in our education system. Survivorship in the wilderness, right? How do you survive in the wilderness? How do you spot the scams, online scams, and how to deal with the fake news, right? How to detect the fake news and scams and conspiracy theory, misinformation, disinformation, and how to deal with the police, right? If police knocks onto your door, how do you deal with that? How do you negotiate? Even swimming is a very, very important life skill, which is completely missed out in school education. I do have a YouTube channel, and please do check out my channel. It's completely ad free. Approximately 13,000 subscribers. I did not turn on the monetization. So do check out many of these topics I have covered in my YouTube channel. So at the onset, friends, we are deluded with lots of bad advices. The books that you read, right? I have seen so many internet memes comparing the profound wisdom of the library versus chaos of the internet. Library is full of wisdom, while internet is full of nonsense and fake news. Not really. Even in the library, almost 99% of books are crap, you know so it's full of bad advices, friends. So what are these bad advices? Not just in books or the internet. Even the motivational gurus keep on talking this nonsense, including, for instance, never give up or never quit. It's one of the very bad advices. I have written an article why this is a bad advice, but in a nutshell, there is a very interesting books on 1996 Everest disaster called Into Thin Air. Of course, there is a documentary also in that. So in 96, what happened is that 8 climbers, they were going to the Mount Everest, and the very important principle of Everest climbing from the base camp is that resources are limited. So wherever you are, by 2 o'clock you need to return, because you cannot carry lots of oxygen cylinder to survive there the entire night. You see, you have to return wherever you are at 2 o'clock. So this group of 8, what they did is that they climbed, and they were around 2:15. They saw the Mount Everest right in front of them. So they thought like, okay, let's go there to see it, right? It's like they were following the advice called never ever give up, never quit. So they went, they reached the summit of the Everest, they reached their life ambition. But unfortunately, they couldn't come back, because by the time they started the return journey, it was already dark and super cold, and this so inclement climate prevented their a descent towards the base camp. All 8 climbers lost their life. Remember that goals are set only for the sake of setting the goals, right? Just to give us an initial motivation to pursue it. But sometime the goals lose the significance. For instance, I was born in 1980s, right? In 80s, it's usually a case of going for shorthand or Morse code as a course, a diploma in Morse code for Telegram. So if you think, okay, that will give us a job, and if you pursued a Morse code, now you see officially Morse code is over. It's retired, right? It has become obsolete. So there is no future for those having a Morse code experience. It will not let you land in a job. So goal should keep on changing it, you see. So there's nothing like a fixed goal or fixed life mission which is really over over hype. So it's a hype, you see. So instead of walking towards a fixed goal, more importantly, the mean to approach that goal is important, the path towards your destination. For instance, I love this hiking. You see, whenever I go to the mountain, of course, I walk towards the summit, but at the same time, I keep on enjoying the butterflies around or wildflowers around, right? So don't completely focus on the goal, but focus on the way to reach that goal. That is, I think that is really important, right? And another such bad advice is follow your passion or follow your dreams or follow your heart, right? Or dream big. All these means the same thing. It's a bad advice. Why it is a bad advice? The reason is that the passion, life's passion, we don't know really. You see? So, and just because you like something, that might not be a good career choice. You see? So, for instance, I like traveling. I just came back from Malaysia, 1 week trip to attend the International Science Congress, Council's meeting, Asia Pacific region meeting. I love traveling. Now, because the traveling is my passion, do you think it's a good career thing? Not really. I did my PhD in Japan, as the introducer said. In Japan, there is a concept called ikigai. Some of you might have heard of this concept, ikigai. To think of for pi, and you need to choose a goal or a career right in the midst of all the four pi diagram or Venn diagrams. You see, the first one is what you love. You see, the traveling, for instance. Do I love traveling? Yes. So it is fine with that when. Okay. The what you love is absolutely fine. Now, what are you good at? That is our second pi. So I'm asking myself, is traveling, I'm really good at traveling? Yes, I love traveling. I'm good at traveling. Absolutely no problem. Right. So that is also fine. Now, the third question to ask is that what the world needs. Do the world needs me to travel? Not really. Why? Because traveling has tremendous carbon footprint. So that is not a sustainable activity that the world or the climate change conscious sustainable living needs. You know, so no, that doesn't suffice. My traveling cannot be my life's goal. Anyway, let's go for the fourth question as well. Does it give the financial support for you? Does it gives me some money? Not really. Traveling, I need to spend my own money, right? Or somebody else's money is being spent for, isn't it? To go to the Kuala Lumpur, for example, last week, ISS has given me the money. So, it is not sustainable, right? So it is not really following the passion is a very bad advice. How about another bad advice called work hard, hard working? Some of you might have read Animal Farm, very interesting book. So there is a horse in that Animal Farm, one of the character, you know. So that horse is working too hard and nothing substantially is happening, right? So it's not really hard work that matters, right? You need, there is another very interesting saying, or rather a proverb that says that if you give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I would be spending the first 5 hours sharpening the axe. Look at that. 5 hours I'm sharpening the axe, and just the last 1 hour I'm going to spend on cutting the tree. That is called, smart work. So otherwise, the tree cannot be chopped down within just 6 hours with a blunt axe. You see? So yes, see, there is another principle called Pareto principle or 80-20 principle, right? All these things are, it's there in my book, but you can check it out, this book. So what is this principle in a nutshell? The principle is that the 80 percentage of the outcome or the result is only because of the 20 percentage of the input. That is a focused input. Rest 80 percentage of the input lead only to 20 percentage of the output. So it is not really working hard, mugging up, reading all the time, that will not lead you to be productive or creative later in your life. Rather, enjoy your life. You see, that is really important. Enjoy your weekends. So yeah, Happy Teacher Habits is one of the very interesting book which I read many years back. So yeah, so how to become very efficient teacher. That is what the book is all about. So efficient teachers are the teachers who enjoy their life, who take vacations, who enjoy outings with their family and friends or solo during the weekends. Take up the weekend very clearly, very dearly. I did a sabbatical at Leibniz Institute for Tropical Marine Research in Germany. And if you look at the German work style, is very interesting. They work from 10 to 5, you know, Monday through Friday. But the Friday, you see, 10 to around 1 o'clock they work. And then after 1 o'clock, what will happen? The entire institution is locked up. No one can get in. Of course, with the proper permission, you can get in. But otherwise, nobody gets in during the weekends. So they have 2.5 days of weekend. And what they do during the weekends, cycle or canoe in canal, spend time in the park with their family and friends, no work during the weekends. See, the Germans are known to work so less time, but when they work, they're laser sharp, no notification in your phone, completely disconnected, completely immersed in the work that you do. And see how many Nobel Prize have gone to Germany. That is what you call the smart work, friends. Working smart is more important than working hard. So just for the sake of publishing crap papers, increasing your impact factor, and you're completely forgetting your family or life commitments, not enjoying your life. You're simply working during the weekends. That is not productive at all. You see, that is the worst way to spend your time with, you see. And of course, there's so many other bad advices. So I'm going to share that link also. You can check out my article on this. Another very bad advice is think positive. I read one book many years back. It's called Secret by Rhonda Byrne. I think some of you have read it. So it is a super popular book, massive bestseller. It has even been translated to Malayalam. And what is that book all about? It's full of bad advices. That book is number one pseudoscience book, I would say. It's completely nonsense book. So one of the advices is that, do you want to become rich? Think about money all the time. Flood your office or your bedroom with $1 million. Write $1 million. I want to become rich, 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 rich. Then suddenly one fine day morning, you will become automatically rich. Not at all. That is not how it works. So think positive. Positive thinking, much better than that is be prepared. So be proactive and factor in the contingency. What if it doesn't work as planned? So what to do next? So those kind of approach to life is much more important than simply thinking positive. Everything will be positive, like going for an exam, thinking that, oh, exam is going to be fantastic, is a very bad approach to cracking the exam, isn't it? Prepare for it. So that is really important. So that is also bad advice, a lot of bad advice. Like chase your dream. Instead of chasing the dreams, it's important to chase your talents. So what you are already gifted with, you know. So chase that talent, that is really important. And first of all, you should actually do in introspection what you are good at, with what are the talents that you have, what are your gifts of your life. For example, you might be very good with drawing, right? So you can combine drawing with your core competency. For example, in botany department where I teach, some of the students are super nice in drawings. So I tell them to take an Adobe Illustrator course. So you can pursue a career in botanical illustrations, highly paid, you know. So not many people are aware of it. You can sell, your the, botanical illustrations through, fungible, yes, so crypto, right? If you're interested in it, learn, take a course on crypto, how to transact in the fungible currency in the crypto. All these are possible. Instead of wasting our time in Facebook, or simply scrolling and uh, looking at the emotionally charged dialogues, spend some considerable time taking up these fantastic courses in YouTube or elsewhere. So the thousands of online platforms are available where you can take up some very interesting courses like that. Okay, so yeah, so what is something that only you can do so well in the universe? That has to be the question to be asked. So you might not be aware of your own talent, but it's a process. The life is a process on discovering yourself better, isn't it? So what are the top life skills? If you ask me, the skill number one is science. So it's a global voice of science, the International Science Council. I'm an ambassador of ISC. So why the science matters beyond science? You might not be teaching science in your college, right? Or you're an arts faculty. It doesn't matter. Science is not even for faculty. Science is for every single person, friends. And what is science? Learn from failures. That is what the science is all about. The scientific method is all about learning from failures and treating these failures as information or knowledge for making our future decisions better. You see? Yeah, so for example, you might have heard practice makes man perfect, the aphorism, right? Or women perfect, whatever. Practice. Do you agree with that? For instance, chess, right? So in chess, of course, there is something called ELO score, right? It's a internationally standardized score. So how do you improve your ELO score? By playing lots of chess games? Not really, no. It's not practice makes a person perfect. Better than that, the only way to increase your ELO score, friends, is that whenever you fail, you have to look back. Which move was costly? So that you will not make that mistake once again. That is exactly what this learn from failure is all about. In 2019, when I went to Germany, in Berlin, I'm sure many of the participants will go to Germany eventually once in your life. If you ever go there, please check out a museum there called Topography of Terror. This museum is completely supported by the German federal government. The employees are all government employees. And in that museum, what do you see there? It's every single exhibit of that museum is that how cruel the Germans were in 1920s till the end of 1940s. All the cruelty that the Germans did to the world. They're showcasing their nasty past. See that? That spirit is called science. So I wrote an article in Hindu about this experience in that particular museum, the topography of terror. So it's another way to think about this science is like video game, right? If you like video games, level 1 is very very simple, isn't it? Now level 2, and then becomes level 3, level 4, level 5, right? So what if this level 1 and level 5 are of same difficulty level? Will you play level 6? It's so boring, right? So treat the life as multi-level video game. That is exactly what the science is. Each level you learn something, right? So that is what, to challenge your core belief. So-called Bayesian perspective is extremely important, so that is what yeah, so in Japan there is a very interesting practice called kintsugi. So kintsugi is that the Chinese lacquerware, like the pottery, you know if it falls down from your hand, just happen, right? What will you do? You toss it into the dustbin, isn't it? Not in Japan. What they do, they take it and they repair it very beautifully, they recreate, and then they celebrate those broken lines with gold. So they're celebrating these failures. That is what makes Japan so very different country, isn't it? Another example I can say about Bathinda. When I came here, it has been now 13 years I'm working in Bathinda, you see. So when I came here, I had fever. I went to a doctor, and the doctor prescribed some medicine for me. And I had this bad habit then and now that whenever a doctor prescribe anything, I'm skeptical. I want to see that how the drug works. Is there an interaction? All those things. So that day, I searched out in the internet. First result came, Gazette of Government of India. Can you guess what it is? That drug, friends, is banned by the Union government 5 years before that date. Doctor, you know, didn't bother to update himself. Many people are like that. After getting an MBBS and MD, that's enough. Stop learning. No. Einstein famously said, the day you stop learning, you start dying. So lifelong learning is extremely important. So learn from failure is my top advice. Second advice is be proactive. Very important soft skill. Be proactive. I was part of Boys Scouts, Bharat Scouts and Guides in school. So in Scouts, the motto of Scouts is the same thing. They are, be prepared. you know so that is exactly what the swimming, why swimming is a life skill. So instead of facing the eventuality, learn swimming. Instead of posing an accident while driving the two-wheeler, put on helmet, put on a other jacket. The jackets will help you with a crash, you see. When I was in Japan, you see that we were instructed to keep a survival bag with all the necessities, including the water, everything together near the entrance door. So whenever there is an alarm like tsunami or earthquake or whatever be, we can simply grab and go. That is what we need in our life. Prepared to face the eventualities rather than thinking positively, tsunami will not come. No, that will not help you. Prepare very nicely. Even time, prepare for what is happening in the next week and schedule it, you see, so that things will not become urgent, right? So very well preparation is extremely important, friends. So failing to plan is planning to fail. So that is what the planning is extremely important. That is exactly what you call it as preparation and scheduling, right? Scheduling is really important, not rather than just to-do list, right? We make a to-do list and we don't really attempt it, right? Then what is the point of this list? But scheduling is much more better. I use a freeware called Todoist, so that syncs with your Google Calendar, and I find it really interesting, very intuitive. Todoist, not list. It is ist, ist. It's a German software. Is ist in Germany, isn't it? So yeah, that is extremely important. This be proactive. I went to Antarctic, and before I went to Antarctica, we had to go for the training in ITBP, Indo-Tibetan Border Police, in Satopanch near Badrinath Temple, Mana village. So kind of lessons I learned over there is very similar to the Scouts and Guides camp. Like in case somebody falls into a crevasse, how to rescue. So one of the instruction which they provide is that never ever walk alone in the Antarctic glaciers. Three people have to go tied up in the with a big rope. Why? In case somebody, one of the person falls, the other two can try to pull to rescue that person, you see. So it's all about preparation, friends. Be proactive. And if you don't know anything, if you don't know something, then you can always search it out. You can learn the things. YouTube is amazing platform where you can see the live demonstration, you can learn it up, you can catch the information. Do you know how to, for example, garden? If you don't know, just YouTube it, you can find it. All these things I have released, I spend a lot of time on YouTube. So even for YouTube, friends, to consume something from the YouTube is so easy, just a click. Even nursery school kids can consume the YouTube video. But to create, no, that takes time. That you have to be intentional. You see, I spend at least 1 week to release one video. I do a lot of research, then script writing, recording, right? Everything takes time. So proactive is extremely important. Third tip of the day is be mindful. Remember, I told you about the German way of people working, laser sharp, completely turn off all the notification. You know, most of us don't live a life. We simply exist, famously said by Mark Twain. Why? We exist in a simulacrum called life because we have so many worries. We either live in the days of yore, days in the past, regrets, right? Or most of the time we are thinking about the future, right? The fears in yet to come. Most of the fears don't even ever come. So we are simply being fooled. We are not even enjoying the present fleeting moment. In Stoicism, there is a concept called carpe diem. Seize the moment, seize the fleeting moment. That is what the be mindful is all about. So mindful is a meditation, right? Mindful meditation technique. So mindfulness meditation is all about be hyper aware. You don't have to go to Himalayas, or pure silence. You don't really need it to practice this mindfulness meditation. Be it in a coffee shop or in the bus, KSRTC bus, you're traveling. Listen everything carefully, or smell that you experience, touch that you see, sensation, hyper aware. That is called mindfulness meditation, you see. So, yes, so be intentional is also mindful. For example, you are applying for a job. So simply use one CV, generic CV, and applying for the job or applying for a position or like PhD position. Same cover letter, same statement of purpose, and multiple applications. I get lots of emails asking for positions in my lab, and the emails that starts with dear or respected sir slash madam. I have a filter to send everything straight into my spam box. I don't even bother to read it because such generic mail fail to amuse me. So it has to be intentional, friends. All right, if you're applying for a job, spend some considerable time to craft a noticeable cover letter, right? So it has to be crafted only for that company, so they will not even get time to read. They might get 5,000 mails per day. So the first thing which they look at is your cover letter, how you are starting, which word you're using to start it. I have released a video on how to write an effective cover letter. You can check out that video too. Or how to write statement of purpose or research proposal. How to write a winning resume. So the first and most important advice on all these things is be mindful. You see, be focused, be intentional. That's very, very important. And this is the same principle behind communication. The best form of communication, how to improve your communication skill. Be mindful. When somebody is talking over a meeting or a conference, you're meeting somebody first time, pay full attention to the other person, what they are saying. So most of us, when we talk with each other, we are not actually listening at all. Multiple psychology studies have shown that people are thinking what to tell them back, right? Next time, how to react, how to respond to their statement. That is what we are thinking, like a lawyer. That is not a good communication strategy at all. Just completely immerse and completely listen it. You don't even have to speak. So that is also uh, quite related to be mindful. The same advice here. This approach of communication is known as active listening. So that's extremely important, right? Be mindful of it. And the fourth and most important advice of today is stay curious. Especially if you're a scientist, curiosity is number one skill for a scientist. Curiosity is curiosity is something like why, why or what or how. That kind of questions are what the curiosity is all about, right? So tell me more is what the curiosity is all about. Somehow that is missing. For instance, when I was in Japan, when I did my PhD there, the lab has several high-end equipments including GCMS and liquid chromatography. All these equipment, DNA sequencer, all these equipments in Japan or Germany. For instance, recently I was in Germany. You visit this Max Planck Institute or Leibniz or Riken in Japan, you see these big expensive equipment. None of these equipments are in the normal mode. The scientists over there, they open it, they change the IC, they completely change the circuits, they add more and more portals into it, they tailor make it. And if you look at here in India, for instance, recently I went for to conduct the PhD thesis, the Viva was, right, as an external examiner. And the university, I don't want to say which university, and they took me around and they said that, well, we have a Illumina DNA sequencer, next gen sequencer. Would you like to see? I said yes. And in the sequencer is untouched. You know, 2.5 crore rupees, friends. All money went to US, but never ever used it because running cost is substantial, that none of the professors, none of the faculty have got the resources for running that equipment. What a waste of the taxpayers money, don't you think so? That is why I completely support the current union government's policy of make in India, and restrictions, a lot of restrictions put on importing these high-end equipments from abroad. So we really need to rethink. Instead of like DNA, for example, the Illumina next gen sequencer, every university having one each and not using. So instead of that, why don't you create one place in each zone, or at least in one state, one designate one sequencing facility, and let the entire state use that facility? That is really important, right? So curiosity is tinkering. Tinkering means to play with. That spirit is what is missing, right? So yeah, we are afraid to play with that equipment, but Japanese and German scientists completely dissect it. Another example is a toy. You bring a toy, for example, a robot, you give to your daughter. So a curious kid, what the kid will do, the daughter will do, when no one is around home or even in front of you, she will open it with a screwdriver. She want to see what is inside. So that is the curiosity. Tell me how it works. That spirit is a curiosity. I do a lot of outreach. So a few years back when I went to Mahe near Talasheri, so one of the temple over there invited me to give a talk about my Antarctic mission. Very interesting. A temple is calling me to talk about science. Very, very interesting. Much appreciations to that temple. Okay, whoever called me. And when I went over there, I was speaking about my Antarctic experience. One of the small girl, she is only in fourth grade. She stood up in the Q&A session and she asked me a question. How do the fish live in Antarctic? It's so very cold there. How cold it could be? I was telling before that. Because the Antarctic waters, friends, it has salt in it, the impurity. And because of that, the freezing point is not zero. It is sub-zero, minus, 1.8 degrees. It's still liquid. So in such a sub-zero liquid, how the fish can swim? I had no answer. I came back to look it up, her question. Then it was only very recently a team from Texas, University of Texas, a PhD. It was a topic of a PhD work, and they found it using the NSF supported American mission, the US Antarctic mission, that the fish had antifreeze proteins in their blood. So such questions are curiosity driven. We really need to nurture that curiosities. Unfortunately, Formal education kills that curiosity. When the same kids grow up, instead of such curiosity driven questions become selfish. Adults questions are selfish, like how to make more money, how to live longer, how to fight cancer. All these are utilitarian questions. At the same time, pure curiosity driven questions, some example would be, why we yawn? A question perplexed the philosophers for thousands of years. Why do we yawn? Or, for example, polar bear, they eat all non-veg full time, and the food is full of cholesterol. And even then, why the polar bear never gets cancer? Why plants don't get cancer? I mean, the polar bear never get the heart disease, right? The cholesterol is linked with the heart disease. Plants don't get cancer. Mostly plants don't get, right? Agrobacterium tumefaciens is the sole exception. And why the elephants don't get cancer, even though their metabolism is quite high. So such curiosity driven questions foster it, tinker it, play. That is, I think that is very, very important life skill, instead of simply looking for utilitarian thing. Yeah. So because of the paucity of time, I would like to stop here, and I'm open for any questions that you have. Thanks once again for the organizers for having me here.
Thank you, Mr. Bast, for the informative and inspiring talk and advices on bad advices. Dr. Bast, could you please explain some of the basic skills for improving science communication based on your personal experience?
Okay, for science communication, it's more about there is a very famous theory. It's rather a new theory in journalism and communication research. It's called theory of constructed audience. So the idea of this theory of constructed audience is that the idea of generic audience is a fallacy. So there is nothing called audience, the general audience. See, so everything depends on the receivers, right? So for example, if I get a chance to talk, right? So Professor Jisha, I asked you this question before this today's talk too, right? Who are the listeners of today's talk? What are their background, which education level they are in? So it all depends on whom I'm talking. I tailor make my presentation, right? So the way I communicate to a nursery school student is drastically different. It's a polar opposite of the way that I talk to you, the learned audience, right? So yes, so theory of constructed audience is very, very important, right? And also the communication, you should actually make it as simple as possible, but not simpler. Very famous quote by Einstein. What is this? Make it as simple as possible, but not simpler. That is very, very important, right? See, Feynman, Richard Feynman is one of the very famous physicists, and he invented the so-called Feynman technique of learning, right? So Feynman technique is that the best way to learn anything is by teaching, right? And also, how do you actually learn anything? If you can explain anything to a fifth grader without the using the jargons, then that is the best way to learn anything. So for example, quantum dots, what we got the Nobel Prize in chemistry, right, a few days back. So what exactly the quantum dots are? If you can explain the concept of quantum dots to a fifth grader without using the jargon, that means that you know it very, very well. That has to be the essence of communication, in my opinion, right? And Einstein's phrase, the last part of the phrase, the second part of the phrase is not simpler. So not simpler means making it too simple that the original meaning is lost, or the original meaning has become twisted. So that kind of over simplification is also problematic. So you need a fine balance to make it as simple as possible, so that the original meaning is conserved in the science communication. Another important thing is about the communication media. Most of the communication in this country happens in English, but unfortunately, so there is a socio-economic barrier on English, right? So English doesn't reach the right audience. That is why one of the organization in Kerala which is very close to me. In fact, the organization which is responsible for making me who I am, I would say, is KSSP, Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad. They do fantastic job in Kerala, especially with Malayalam communication, science communication in Malayalam. Yeah. So I think it's really important whom you're talking with, which media that you use, and simplification of the concept, but not simpler, not too simpler. Yeah. Any other
Thank
questions?
you. Thank you so much. And now we are moving to the question and answer session. Participants can message questions in the Google Meet chat box. So already a couple of questions there. Could
Yeah,
you
I can
please?
see that Vincent is asking happy, and the Jace Jacob has already answered the Happy Teacher Habits by Michael Linson. Yeah, that's one of the very nice book. So in case you want to know some of the most favorite books that we have, see, our lifetime is already too short, right? And there are thousands of very good books. So instead of spending your time on reading some crap book like Secret, simply please don't waste your time reading Secret. It's pseudoscience book. Check out my video on some of the best books which I love. Not even Happy Teacher Habits, I didn't cover that. But yes, still, even that is a very nice book. Some of the best books are Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Life-changing book, I would say. And how to win friends. How to win friends and influence people by Dale Carnegie. Very old book, 1990s. I think it is 30th edition has come out recently. Fantastic book. So yeah, some books are completely life transforming. For example, Atomic Habits. you know so yeah, that is one of the very very nice book. A lot of books which I covered in my video, you can check out my YouTube channel. Yeah. And yeah, so Anu is asking, I'm interested to know about how your view on less women count in employment. So the girls are good in academics, they're comparatively less successful even compared to boys who are not good in studies. What would be the reason according to you? Well, all bias, systemic racism is everywhere. In India, see, I'm a faculty in Central University. We have 47 Central Universities. How many Central Universities have women vice chancellor? Less than 10, less than 5 even. So why? Is it because the girls are not smart? Not really.